Today on the podcast, we're going to be looking at branding, theory versus practice. Again, today on the podcast, we're going to look at branding, theory versus practice. And the reason why is because I think maybe last week when I was telling you guys about changes coming to the podcast, well, not really changes per se, like I'm getting a new logo, as in the podcast is getting a makeover basically. So on that podcast episode, I think I spoke about the difference between what most Nigerians mean when they hear branding, which is color, logo, websites, fonts, stuff like that. And then practice, the much more substantial theory of branding, which is that your brand is the sum total of all the experiences that your customers have when they interact with you. So it's not just what is the color of your logo. So it's a combination of everything. What is the color of your logo? That's a brand. What kind of fonts do you use? That's a brand. Your material, is it embossed? Is it glossy? That's the brand. Your staff, are they rude? That's the brand. Your salespeople, are they polite? That's a brand. Do you always deliver on time? That's a brand. Is it that you send your customer? That's the brand. So those are some of the things that when I talk about over here on the podcast, when I talk about branding, I try and tease out some of these things because too many of us Niger people, to be honest, we're in love with colors, logos, websites, fonts, and, the Instagram having a cohesive, what will I say? A cohesive, how will I say now? Like everything is well put together and everything looks all right. So today on the podcast, branding, theory versus practice. So I'm making today's recording at home. It just finished raining, so that's where you're going to hear some noise in the background, some rumbling in the background and stuff like that. Now, if you're tired of looking for, business strategies and tips and things like that, everything just, America, UK, stuff like that, but no good stuff for Nigeria, then welcome to the podcast. This is the show for you. I'm your host, Tavishima Ayede, and for years, I've been dropping practical stuff here, realistic stuff, relevant stuff, so that we can get results in the Nigerian market. So, if you are ready to stop listening to all that generic stuff that exists out there, and you want to grow your business in the Nigerian way, then stay locked in to this podcast. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, or any player of your choice. And if you'd love to connect, call, send me a text message or WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. All right, so like I said, today on the show, branding, theory versus practice. So like I said, here in Nigeria, lots of us think branding means colors, logos, websites, fonts. And the example that I used the last time was NEPA or PHCN, Power Holding Corporation, or the more local entities, the distribution companies, AEDC, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. What again? Lagos one is what? Is it Eco Distribution Company? EKDC. Ibadan, Plateau, as in everywhere. We all have our own DC. So, if you look at that organization, former NEPA, PHCN, AEDC, all of them, if you look at their branding, on point. Their Twitter pages, on point. Okay, I haven't checked their Instagrams. Websites, not bad. The fonts, all good. Colors, nice. Logo, correct. Enter their offices, especially the Abuja offices, AC tight. See all the Ogas cars, properly branded, looking all nice, looking as in, do they have a correct brand? You're damn right, they have a good brand. When you call them on the phone, that they automated something, will say, oh, your call is valuable to us, something. Because of that, we are audited by Deloitte to ensure customer service, something. So they have even gone and pay Deloitte, international consulting. So, from a theory perspective, branding, on point. Meanwhile, let's look at the customer experience. I told you guys, somebody reached out to me, and the guy was laughing. Well, not really laughing per se, but, he just said, what are the odds that, Independence Day, every. But then meanwhile, parts of Abuja, one whole week, no light. More than 1 week, no water. But of course, they didn't tell us before they, did all this. So 1 week blackout, no public announcements, no WhatsApp messages. In fact, when I tried to tried to call in customer care, they admitted that they had a problem with some of their computer systems. So they were backed up on WhatsApp messages. It was not getting through, you know. And of course, they have that wonderful automated message whenever you try and call them. Your call is important to us, blah, 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 blah. AEDC, valuing your peace of mind, something, 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 something. We take customer service seriously. We are audited by Deloitte, blah, 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 blah. And then they kept me on hold. Normally, I would have cut the call, but, they vexed seriously. So I hung on. I guess how many minutes I hung on the phone? 18 minutes and 18 seconds before somebody responded. I repeat, they kept me on hold 18 minutes and 18 seconds. That's how long I was on the phone. Meanwhile, for those 18 minutes, they'll be repeating the same thing. Your call is important to us. We take customer service seriously. We are audited by Deloitte, blah, 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 blah. Your call is important to us. I sat there for 18 minutes listening to your call is important to us. In fact, the outline for this episode, I wrote it while I was waiting on that call. Another thing is, all that voice thing that they have there is real nice, real sweet. They got professional voice actors to do it, Didn't they? They did. So now I want us to consider one question. AEDC, NEPA, all of them, whatever. Do they have a good brand or not? I repeat, do they have a good brand or not? For those of you who think of branding as color, logo, website, fonts, they have a good brand. If you look at the much more substantial theory around branding, ask yourself, does NEPA, PHCN, AEDC, ECODC, Ibadan BDC, JOS BDC, all the DC, do they have good brands or not? Now, some of you will say, Tawishima, you're being unfair now. You're picking a very, very extreme case to prove your point. And yeah, I'll admit, I am picking the extreme case. It's just that I'm trying to prove a point when I go on all these brand things. Most of us are not this bad, though. Most of us are not as bad as NEPA. Most of us are, 50-50. Even myself, I'm not perfect. But I use this extreme example just to illustrate one point. There's a proper way of how to think about the brand of your business. Those of you who are obsessed with color, logo, website, font, there's a whole lot more to it. And I think you're better off paying attention to the much more substantive side of these things. What is the customer experience? How do you deal with customers? When they interact with you, do they come away with a sour taste in their mouth? These are the things you ought to be paying attention to. And another reason why, also about that, my neighbor, she's about to put on her generator. I told you that NEPA issues, and her daughter is getting married tomorrow. Poor woman. So, you know how it is now. So neighbors, neighbors, family members at home, and things like that. And I feel sorry for them. Imagine planning a wedding, no light, no water. Anyway, where was I? Anyway, so I was saying that you're better off thinking about the brand in much more substantive terms. And another benefit of thinking about the actual practice, not just theory, or the much more substantive ideas behind branding is this. By the time you call the brand professional, if you have been paying attention to doing business right, any question that the brand professional asks you, you will have answers so that you can give them that they will now use to inform your brand. And that is precisely the exercise that I went through with Elizabeth and her firm, Goshen Media. I know in the older other episodes I said elite, but that was because I think when we first started chatting and I checked her LinkedIn handle, I think there was something there about elite branding agency or something like that. So that's how I got it mixed up. But it actually is Goshen Media. Yeah, Goshen, like Redeemed Church, for those of you who are wondering. But no, she's not affiliated with Redeemed Church. It's just the same name. So it was like that. Because I have been paying attention to the substantial things, the customer experience, how do I treat my customers? Who are the kind of customers I'm trying to attract? How do I treat listeners to the show? What are the kind of topics that I talk about? When people get in touch with me, what are the kind of questions that I answer? Because I've been focused on that for the last 5 years, when Elizabeth and her crew sat me down to ask me questions so that they could come up with all these changes, come up with logo, come up with color, come up with fonts, I had answers to give them, and that is what informed the design. So, in a couple of days, we've already agreed on the final designs. The new podcast cover is going to be up. Yeah, and everything looked nice and fancy. They did a good job. If I'm looking at what they did now, is now I can see that truly, my old stuff was basic, as in basic AF. Anyway, so yeah, changes coming to the podcast, but don't worry, the changes that are coming are not substantial. Excuse me. I'm still going to be answering the same kinds of questions that I did on the show in the past. We're still going to be talking to the same kind of people, still going to be answering the same kinds of questions, and I'm still going to be obsessed with the same kinds of issues. And my core thesis that we all need to learn how to sell in order to improve our businesses and improve our personal lot in life. The core thesis is still there. So we'll always be talking about sales. Always. Especially personal selling. Because you can get good at branding, you can get good at positioning, you can get good at building sales funnel, get good at advertising, but last, you have to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. If you don't like answering phones, anyhow, you have to pick up the keyboard and respond to a WhatsApp message, respond to a DM, respond to an email. Any which way. Eventually, it all boils down to personal selling. Because one person must talk to somebody else. Especially for those of us in the SME space. So again, those of you who say, excuse me, I hate branding, because I've got that comment from a few people. In fact, Elizabeth said it herself when we're about to start working together. She said, I know you don't like branding. I said, no, it's not like that. It's not as if I hate branding. So I'm trying to qualify some of the ideas that I expressed over here on the podcast. There's a proper way to think about branding, and branding is a useful tool, but some of you are just too obsessed about it. By the way, one guy that I mentioned, I think now it should reach like 2 months. I say, how far now? The guy said, I'm working on my brand. Guess what? Guess if he has started. The answer is no. The guy hasn't started. So before I met him, I'm working on my brand. While I met him, while we're talking, I'm working on my brand. 2 months later, I'm working on my brand. Can you guys see how in real life, this fascination with brand thing, it will stop you from getting started? Hope you guys can see. I'm not making this stuff up. I say, before I met the guy, I'm working on my brand. The day I was talking to the guy, I'm working on my brand. 2 months don't pass. How far? I'm working on my brand. Anyway. So, what should NEPA do? AEDC, all these kind of companies, Nigerian companies. If you're actually worried about your brand, what should you do? I really think you should have more customer service professionals, more CX professionals, have more people on the phone. Don't let people wait for too long. Don't let your communication structure break down. Let people's messages and complaints get through. Make sure we have shorter waiting times, because problems go every day. Always. Then, communicate downturns. NEPA, you guys should be communicating downturns. Your Twitter handle is nice and sweet, So be using that sweet Twitter handle to be letting people know. Just coming in, just breaking. So feeder, broken down between Ibadan and Lagos. Because of this, our engineers have been mobilized swiftly to start work. We are thinking that it will take like 76 hours for the problem to be resolved. Put it out there. Now, Nigeria now, we always like to, people will screen grab, retweet, and stuff like that. The news will go around. Proactively communicate with people. Let people know what's up. Business people listening to this, let your customers know what's up. Sometimes the reason why your customers they vex is because you're not saying anything. You told her the delivery was going to be there in 2 weeks. 2 weeks was September 11th. Now it is September 23rd. They have not heard anything. Of course, the girl go they vex. Of course, you'll be seriously vexed because you didn't say anything. The moment you know there's going to be a problem, let her know what's up. Oh, madam, we promised you September 11th. I'm terribly sorry. This thing happened. It looks like there's going to be a delay. Please, madam, do not be disappointed. It's looking like we might have your delivery there by September 23rd, not later than September 23rd. Now, she will still vex. It's just that the former vexing, where you didn't say anything, is much, 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 much greater than the one where you told her September 11th. But then by September 6th, September 5th, when you knew that there was a problem, you called her and you told her it's now September 23rd. The vexing won't be as big. Lots of times, that's the reason why customers just they vex anyhow. So just like AEDC, NEPA, Echo DC, Ibadan, BDC, JOS, DC, all the distribution companies, just like how they should proactively communicate, we should also proactively communicate with our customers. Thank you very much for the order. We received the transfer. Your order is now being processed. Good morning, sir. Your order has been processed. It's being delivered. It's on its way to you right now in Maiduguri. Sorry, sir. Through no fault of ours, your order has been delayed because local council government at the border stopped your order. We are sending agents now to go and sort out the issues. Please expect delivery to be 5 days later. Be updating people. Let people know what's up. Also, what else? Anyway, let me just leave it like that because when it comes to these things, we can keep on talking on and on and on and on. But how it affects we, business owners, is very simple. Can you see that? The things that NEPA or not these big companies, the things that they need to do if they're seriously preoccupied about their brand is to do all the substantive things and not waste millions and millions of naira in contracts for logo and website and everything. And it's the same thing for you too. So right now, if you cannot afford to have a branding professional, someone like Elizabeth, to come and look at your stuff, it's okay. But don't think because of that you can't start. As I'm telling you right now, somebody sent me a message today. Person wants to be, guy wants to do mobile gadgets, phones, computers, those sorts of things. He doesn't have money for branding and CSE registration. That's what's holding him back. He really thinks that is what is holding him back because he doesn't have money for CSE registration and he doesn't have money to pay for branding and logo designs. That's not what's holding you back. It's not. You're afraid of a bunch of stuff. I'm not quite sure what you're afraid of. But all you need to do is to go out and start talking to people and sell a bunch of phones. From the small profit you make, you'll be able to pull aside some coins and then you talk to your cousin who just finished from law school and you give him something. With that, he'll be able to help you sort out CAC. That is one thing that is down. Then continue to sell your phones. From the small coins that you gather, you can now go and call somebody to do your branding thing if it's that important to you. But trust me, if you're listening to this podcast now and you really think the reason why you haven't started your business is excuse me, because you don't have money for CAC registration and you don't have money for branding, I don't mean to be rude, but you're telling yourself a lie. There's something else that you're afraid of. Maybe you're afraid of talking to strangers. Maybe you don't think you can really do it. Maybe you want to become a graphic designer. Maybe you really think, you don't have the skills to do graphic designs. There's some other thing you're afraid of. It's not branding that is holding you back. And it's not CAC registration that is holding you back. Anyway, forgive me that this is another rambling episode. I really shouldn't be doing this, when something happens and I just vex and I come and just vomit on you guys. So I shouldn't really be doing that. But anyway, that's pretty much what I want to talk about. Oh, by the way, the best thing, after being kept on the phone for 18 minutes and 18 seconds, and after we finished talking, and after the babe could not give me any helpful information, Guess what she told me? She told me kindly end the call. I love the way Nigerians talk. Kindly end the call. Does anything there sound kind to you? Does anything there sound empathetic to you? That's what the babe said. Kindly end this call. I said, Chai, Nigerians have a way with words. But I like it. I like it. So maybe one day too, when I'm vexing with somebody on the call, I'll say, look, you know what? Bro, kindly end this call. It's a nice one. It's a nice way of being curt and rude and, to the point without saying anything rude. Because if you look at the words that she used, kindly end the call, it's nothing bad. But anyway, that's how the interaction ended. Anyway, poor girl. I really hope they increase her salary because I'm sure lots of people had called to shout on her that day. Anyway, let me stop doing therapy over here. So that's it, and that's all. Remember, if you'd love to connect, you can call, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. And if you're ready for more realistic stuff, tips, tricks, strategies, things that work in the Nigerian market, then you are in the right place. Because in this very feed, where you're listening to this podcast, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you are, we have over 1,000 episodes, over 1,200 episodes. So keep listening, keep scrolling, keep listening, keep binging, keep taking notes, keep applying. There are people who are applying and they're getting results, and that could be you too. So thanks for your time and attention. I will see you guys soon.